Hey, yo. What is going on, everybody? I'm looking for my list. What list are you asking about? It's a list of the most underrated Marvel Snap cards. Kind of wanted to do something different, like something else to kind of talk about. So, I think I really want to do. I still kind of want to do deck highlights, but I also want to be able to talk about this game and the different aspects of it. Not so much like theory crafting, but just like the game in general. So, hopefully this is something that you guys like. I know you got. I'm not really, like I said before, I'm not really super smart in the editing tips and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna try to do this all in like one shot. I wrote down my list, and it was really hard. It took me like a day to kind of do it, just to see. And I still don't even know if I'm like comfortable with this list of like underrated cards. So if you guys got suggestions of what you guys think is underrated, let me know. You may or may not agree with my list, but I just had to talk about it. So we'll go by cost. So we'll do the ones all the way to 6. That'll be including 6 plus, including death and whatnot. And then also the zeros cost and everything. But I tried to at least pick 3. 5, on the 5 costs, I couldn't really pick like a really underrated card. So this is gonna be really, like I said before, this is gonna be tough. I may change my mind, but here we go. So in the 1 cost cards, I actually picked 3 cards out of the 1 costing cards. And you guys will probably not agree with me, but that's okay. I'll try to give like a decent amount of reason. On my first list, a card that I don't have, I think Echo is criminally underrated. Yes, it's kind of been used in decks and stuff, but nobody really sits down and talks about this card and what it actually does. Like, this was a hard choice for me because my second choice would have been my first choice if I would have recorded this yesterday. But I personally think that like Echo is probably the most underrated card in as far as a 1 cost, and like just in general. She protects your ongoing, your Wongs and stuff. Smacks armor, smacks Cosmos, smacks like anything, just anything that's played. If you're able to get the advantage in it and you just happen to guess if they're playing that type of card, it even starts Professor X. Like, if you want to be smart and try to do the whole like Daredevil thing, unless they don't have Daredevil out and you just happen to have it, you can smack the shit out of it. I think Echo is like criminally underrated, an underrated card that doesn't seem to get like a lot of love. You know what I'm saying? But it's a good card. So that was my guess. That I think that might be my first. It's tied for first, I'll say. My second tied for first. I know people not gonna agree with it, but I honestly think Ghost is not used enough. Has an insane ability of making sure that your cards reveal last, so you can always Shang-Chi. You're able to hit something. You let them do their thing first, and then you're able to do something. You can Hazmat, Luke Cage, all that type of stuff, And I think it's just not. I think people try to play it in the beginning and run with it. I think if you specifically play this card in like at a certain time, like a turn, like late, like a turn 4 or 5, to catch up and stuff and see what's happening. Of course, with Goliath being out, it really sucks. But I stated before that I think that Ghost is like very, very, very underrated, and I need to like utilize it more and be able to use it. But I honestly think it's a really, really good card. People don't think it is. That's cool too, but I just think it's pretty damn underrated. And then I honestly did a third card and I didn't know if I really should have done a third card because I think maybe not a lot of people would agree with me. But I've been seeing this card pop up a lot more than usual, and it's Spider-Ham. Now I know people are like, yo, if they play Mobius Triple M, then whatever you Spider-Ham is basically free for that person, and that's cool. But if you also team it up with Shadow King for the 2 costs, that card that got oinked or pigged or whatever gets wrecked, and it becomes a 0 cost. So Shadow King mixed up with Spider-Ham is really, really good. So personally, I think those 3 are like underrated. I think everything else is like properly rated cards. I know someone's probably like, yo, Snow Guard is probably underrated, but it's used. I think it went from not really like a trash card to like really good, and then now it's just kind of like meh, but it's still used with Loki and Collector and those type of decks. I think it's a pretty decent card still, but if you would have said beforehand, I would have said it was probably like one of the best 1-drops. And something, again, like for some reason I just don't own 1-drops, which is fucking crazy. Okay, for the number 2 costing cards, it was really hard for me to kind of pick because a lot of these are like really good, or not really good, but like pretty good. Like Jeff is like the best 2-drop. It's one of the best cards in the game, so it's definitely not underrated or anything like that. But I personally picked, from as far as like the 2 costs go, I went with Goose. I think Goose is severely underrated. Zabu messed up a lot of things, but when Mobius was being played out, I honestly think that like Goose matched up with Mobius was insane. I think Goose is like a really, really dope card. I personally think it's dope. I think it's completely underrated. You don't see it in a lot of decks anymore, and not a lot of people talk about Goose, but I think Goose has just been one of those cards that's just like, damn, man, it's for what it does, it's like really good. I was gonna have for my second choice, I didn't like. I'm looking at my list. My dumb ass didn't really. I wrote down 2, but I couldn't, because I couldn't think of a third one. Like at first, I had Mirage as like an underrated card, but because I think it could be used. I think she could be used in like different type of decks and stuff like that. Just for basically intel. It's not used in everything. I think it's a pretty damn good card. But I think for the second one, I put in Calling Wing. I think Calling Wing is like another underrated card. It's a 2/4. Discard your lowest card, so you know what you're gonna discard. It's hard to say that it's like underrated because you typically use it in like discard type of decks, but it's not like the best discarding card. But for a 2-drop with 4 power and a card that's not really, talked about per se, I honestly think that Calling Wing is probably like underrated next to Goose. I couldn't really honestly think of a third one, and I kind of don't, so I think I'm just gonna stick with those 2 because a lot of the other 2 cards are like in their own right are good. Like I know that Baron is like hated, and for its like ability and everything, I don't even think it's like too bad. But since Mobius came out, it just pretty much shut it down. But I think Mobius is not. I think Baron Mordo, even though he's like kind of ranked as trash, might be underrated because like his ability's not that bad. I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to say. But on with the 3 costs. There's a lot of good 3-cost cards. Okay, there's a lot of really good 3-cost cards, and I think most of the 3 costs are perfectly ranked as what they are. I think it's really hard to like. I would have to do a whole tier list about like this, but I have no tier list. But I really want to say, I actually have three. I actually picked three cards out of that are underrated, and the underrated card that I have that I think that's low key like good. Hear me out. Snegasonic. When I magically get this card in my hand, this shuts down a lot of things. This prevents a lot of things happening. Yeah, it prevents it on my side, but people don't want their stuff destroyed. But if you happen to catch somebody, it's like a baby Goliath that's a 3/5. That just doesn't stay on the board. It's, for whatever reason, it's underused. Not a lot of people use it. I think it's because of its ability. Maybe because of the power. Even though it just got beefed, not recently, but fairly recently got beefed up to a 3/5. It used to be a 3/4. But yeah, like, I honestly think that Negasonic is pretty underrated. It stops a lot of things. It's almost like in the same tier as Echo, because whenever you see Echo, you're like, ah, shit. Like, I can't put any ongoing card there. With Negasonic, you can't put any card there. And I know this is going to surprise a lot of people. Actually, hold on. I'll do this one. So I got Negasonic, and right next to her is Polaris. Polaris was like the card. It used to be played all the time, and then all of a sudden it just stopped being played a lot. And I have no idea why it stopped being played, because it does a lot of awesome disruption and locks down a lane. If you have certain, with certain cards and everything, moves 1 or 2 costing cards. So just in case there's an armor, you know what I'm saying, you can move that armor out of the way, or anything that can be moved into like Fixed Tower or Kingpin or stuff like that. I honestly think, and the power stat 3/5 is really nice. But you just don't see it much anymore. And I honestly think that, like, not seeing it that much or anything like that, despite it being a pretty damn good card, like for its stat line and ability and stuff like that, also paired up with one of the best decks, Polaris is like super underrated. Like I said, you don't see a lot of people use it, and not a lot of people talk about it. So I personally think that Polaris is like under the radar, pretty damn good. So Negasonic, Polaris, and yeah, like I said, you guys are gonna be surprised that I even said this, because I talk shit about this card all the time. Hear me out. Now that Mobius is not being played as often, Ravonna should be making a comeback. And I was calling, like, I even made I started making Ravonna decks just because I haven't seen a lot of Mobius. So I'm just like, all right, I know that I made a lot of not necessarily like a lot of content, but in my rants that I've talked about how trash Ravonna is. And I think she was basically trash because of the timing that she was released, because it was just, I had like a little bit of fun, and my dumbass bought her from the token shop, and immediately kind of regretted it after the week, because Mobius came out and basically was everywhere, shutting down Loki's and then shutting down Ravonna like herself. So, and I'm still waiting on if they're gonna do anything with this card, as far as just if they're gonna make it a 2/3, if they're gonna make it a 3/4, if they're gonna like do something. I think honestly to make her cheaper, like she needs to be in a 2 cost, because Mobius at a 2 costing card and then just shuts down a lot. Okay, and I've talked about this before. It shuts down a lot. Ravonna, with Mobius not being played as much, when people are being bold with more Zabus and everything like that, I think honestly Ravonna should be. And with the uptick of Thanos cards coming out, Ravonna matched up with Darkhawk, Taskmaster being cheaper, Black Widow being a 1 cost. A lot of these like cards that that are 1 or less, we'll benefit a lot with Ravonna, and with how, like I said, Thanos is being out there. Darkhawk is just basically that counter. Ravonna being out, Zabu makes Darkhawk like a 2-cost card. Like, come on now. There's a lot of things that you can do with like Ravonna Renslayer now that Mobius is really not prevalent as much as he was like a few weeks ago. So I think with Mobius dying down a bit, I think Ravonna will get an uptick. You heard it from me first. I think Ravonna is going to get an uptick. I said that she was trash. The ability is amazing, like not amazing, but it's really good. And it's almost like it can have its own archetype, really. Ravonna is underrated. Like, as much as shit that I gave her, the ability itself is super underrated, and it's really good. I just wish it was at least like a 2-cost, not a 3. But if you're gonna make it a 3, make it beefier or something. I don't know. It fits with Cerebro 3 though. Like, that's y'all gotta look out for Cerebro 3 with Ravonna and Mobius both in there. Like that's a good deck. Okay, so that's my 3 is Negasonic, Ravonna, and Polaris. So we're gonna move on to number 4. Number 4, I did pick 3. Huh. Interesting. This was really hard too to even like pick, but my first choice that I picked is actually Super Scroll. It falls on and off. It falls on and off with like certain decks, because sometimes you don't know where to put Super Scroll if you actually need him to be in there. But a lot of other people have been having ongoing decks and stuff like that, and now it's like the time for Super Scroll to like shine. But I still think, even before the uptick of like ongoing decks, I still think that Super Scroll was like, is an underrated card. You're able to steal Living Tribunal, you know what I'm saying, steal Iron Mans, and if people are playing with the Hella Tribunal stuff and you happen to have Super Scroll just takes on all the abilities of ongoing. And most of the time, if you're playing like Sauron decks and everything, they already Sauron their stuff, so you don't have to worry about the negative effects of Typhoid Mary or Ebony Maw and all that stuff. So everybody, when they play Suri, Charon, and I played a lot of it, like as soon as Sauron's in there, you know for a fact that all the bad ongoing stuff is out. But I honestly think that like Super Scroll is one of the most underrated cards, and that's something that's not talked about. But now that I think it's starting to get popular again with the uprising of ongoing decks. So that's my choice. And then second, which I've been playing the absolute fuck out of, and I think it's amazing, is Silver Samurai. Silver Samurai, so dope. It's gotten rid of Alliance, it's gotten rid of Taskmasters, it's gotten rid of their Iron Mans, like whatever card they have. I've even gotten rid of their Ghost Riders if I'm playing against another discard deck. And since I've been climbing with discard, I've been using it, like I've been using Silver Samurai with Hella when I'm able to knock out my Iron Man or knock out a Dracula out of my hand, or a Jubilee if I'm doing like the kind of the Lockjaw version of Hella. I love this card, and I think it's super underrated. Not everybody has this card in their discard because they don't want to discard their smaller, their certain cards out of their hand. But this gets rid of a lot of cards that can end up winning the opponent the game, and this simply just knocks it out of their hand, and it's so dope. Like, I personally love this card, and I can't stop talking about how like honest and like good it is. It's like, Silver Samurai dog, I love you. I wish they would have just done him better in the animated series. If you ever watched the episode with Silver Samurai in the X-Men animated series, it's such bullshit. He has the Miramusa blade, or whatever you say it. He fucks up Logan a lot, okay? Like, dude is superly underrated as far as like a character. A little bit of an anti-hero. He's like started as a villain, but he's like an anti-hero. He just wants to fight the strongest. So Silver Samurai, I can't stop talking about him. And I didn't know if I was gonna do like a third one, and I don't know if I necessarily like agree with this card per se, but I had like Spider-Man 2099 as like an underrated card. I mean, for its ability, it's not a reveal on reveal. It's not an ongoing. It's just like, hey, this is its ability, and it's able to destroy any card. It destroys a Cosmo. I've had to destroy Cosmo. I had to destroy a Wong. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really even play it that much. That's why I still have like the white border and everything. But it also that card messed me up and messed up my plans for a lot of stuff on there. And I think it also destroys like unrevealed cards as well. Like, I want to say that it destroys unrevealed cards. But I thought I seen it before, but with this ability and everything, I think it's like completely underrated as far as power wise and ability wise. It's really good. So that's it for 4. 5. Majority of these cards are fantastic. It was really hard for me to pick if it was like okay, Devil Dino's used in damn near every deck. Like Taskmaster's used in the best deck. Iron Man's a really good card. You know what I'm saying? Hobgoblin's awesome. You know, you see that I'm skipping Kang because Kang is ass, and I don't even want to say that he's underrated. You know what I'm saying? Like Sandman is pretty good. Like a lot of these cards are freaking amazing, and they do work. You know what I'm saying? And they're like some of the best cards in the game are like, I feel like, are like the 5-cost cards. Just like looking at them, I'm just like, damn, dude, I can't say like what is like underrated as far as like a 5-cost goes. Like, would MODOK be underrated in that sense? But it's really good in discard. So the only one that I could really pick as far as being underrated, and you guys may not agree with me, but it's this guy. I wrote down on my list, I put in Leech. I think Leech is criminally underrated, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of smack for this. I personally think that Leech should go back to pre-nerf Leech. I know you're gonna be like, you're stupid. You don't make any sense. Bruh, we've been seeing a lot of like just crazy madness. Why not bring Leech back to shut it down? How about that? How about Lockjaw right into Leech, zap their hand? Now, when people are talking about me complaining and stuff like that, about certain cards, you guys weren't around when half of the creators were bitching about this card. Literally were bitching about this card. Literally saying, this is not fun playing against that, like this card. Though it's a 5/3, it's a trash, like, you know, power wise, and it's an expensive costing card. This card is underrated because it doesn't get it's not talked a lot. It's not talked about a lot. It used to be talked about a lot with its ability and how insane it was being on reveal, and you can just cheap out the card. But personally, I think Leech is like the most underrated, like 5 costing card in the game currently. Yeah, Vision is like amazing. Jane Foster is like really good. It's a 5/8. Like these cards are like really good, but for its ability and to kind of shut down a lot of shit, is this guy. Leech easily is my pick for underrated 5 costing card. And while looking at like the 5 costs, like I can't think of another. Maybe Sandman would be like my second guess, maybe. And I would say like Ronin, but everybody typically plays they dump their hand a lot, and sometimes you don't get Sandman, and I don't know. It's the archetype for Ronin is like really, it's pretty trash. Like it's a decent card. It might be underrated because it's not too bad, but it's not that great either. So I don't know. Kang would be like is ass. So sorry, Kang. He just. I got awesome variants though that I didn't technically ask for, but you know, hey. Hopefully one day we'll get a Kang rebirth and he actually or rebirth, whatever, and he'll be actually good. 6 costed cards was really hard for me to pick. Like I honestly couldn't pick, so I went with Magneto because this card used to be used a lot of the times, but once you get higher in collection levels and the decks just get like, you know, insaner, you don't see a lot of Magneto being played. Might see him in like Hela, you might see him in like other stuff, but Magneto back in the day was kind of a problem. And now it's not like so much of a problem, but with a lot of like 3 costing cards and the 4 costing cards being like really good, like Magneto can like shift where the power goes and can switch the game for you with this ability. Like honestly, I think Magneto is probably the most underrated 6 card because you don't see it a lot. Its ability is really good, and I think it could be fit into any other like type of archetype. It's a really good 6 costing card, and even if it's like Cosmode or whatever, it's 6/12. I mean, you can say the same thing for like Destroyer, but Destroyer like just destroys your other cards. So if you're able to like prevent that, then Destroyer would kind of be like second. Now I know people would say like Helicarrier, but even then it's just like only made for specific decks. I don't know. 6/10 is not enough for me to be like whoopie woo. And I would say She-Hulk, since like Mobius and everything like would be underrated. Let's go ahead and like let's do that. Like She-Hulk would kind of be like, she's my favorite 6 costing card. She's one of my favorite cards. Like when I first got her, she's always been one of my absolute favorite cards in this game. To the point that she might be underrated, even though now she's kind of ass due to Mobius. Like I said, Mobius has made a lot of cards just like kind of butt cheeks and changed the ranking and everything. But I still think, as far as like my favorite, honestly, I think like She-Hulk is pretty underrated because she's not used in a lot of other 6. Not using a lot of other archetypes and stuff like that, but I feel like you can fit her into like anything with her ability to reduce energy that's like not spent. She's super underrated. And look at that ink finish, man. Archer, bro, you're fire, dog. Look at her, man. She's fire. But that is it for my 1 through 6 cards of the most underrated cards in Marvel Snap. Like I said, most of y'all will probably not agree with me, and this is not, you know, like the deck highlight or anything like that, but it's just like a discussion that what you guys think is like currently underrated, that you feel like, man, I think this could be used more, but it's just not used more. But for its ability, it's like really good, so they should start using it more. So yeah, that's what I think where underrated comes from. Let me know what you guys think. What from like 1 through 6? What do you guys think are the most underrated cards in Marvel Snap? Do you agree with my choices or not? Let me know in the comments. Also, check out my other videos that I have listed. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to put here or there at the end, but check those out if you haven't checked those out. I appreciate y'all spending a lot of time listening to me ramble and everything for 30 minutes about my cards, or just kind of shifting through the deal. I'm going to put in a little timeline list of what the one costs and all that stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Y'all take care. Peace.